Yeah, so
Yeah.
just tell us your name and however you want us to refer to you and
Yeah, sure. My
anything.
name's Christian Militello. Christian Militello, owner, operator, not operator, owner, managing partner of the Militello Painting and Powerwashing. President, whatever it is. Who knows? One of those.
All right, thanks, man. All right, so welcome back to the Technician to CEO podcast here. We're joined with Christian Militello of Militello Painting, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the stuff he's doing in his business. He's got some pretty exciting things going on. It sounds like he's really, from our conversations that we've had, Christian, like you do things a little different than some of the other people that I've met over the years and talked to. So I'd love to talk about that today, but I really want to get started. First off, thanks for joining us. Let me
Yeah,
pause
of
and say that.
course, of
Thank you so
course.
much for joining us. But I really want to get started. I love to hear about how they got started in business. Like, where did this journey begin for you? And you can go as far back as you want, but just how did all this come about? How did you end up being a business owner?
So, I can, well, ended up becoming a business owner because I'm unemployable, basically, is how I became a business
Okay.
owner. I am not employable by anyone else other than myself. But to start where it started, I basically worked for a painter and power washer and scheduled some side jobs, and then scheduled enough side jobs to the point where I had 30 days worth of work. I gave my former boss my 2 week notice, and I started my business on 30 days worth of work. Now, a little prehistory to that is I helped my grandfather. He was a handyman. I would help him throughout the summers, and I went to college to, you know, my major was playing baseball, but unfortunately, you can't graduate with that degree. So I never finished college. And once I came out, and I hopped on a painting staff with a buddy of mine, and that's where the rest of the story picks up. I took off after I had about 30 days worth of work, and that was 21 years ago.
Wow. So take me back to that moment. You said you were doing some side work and you built up 30 days worth of work. So we've been working at it.
Yeah, I was
What
working with him for 2 years.
what did that feel like when you made the decision to turn in your notice and step out on your own? Was you scared or
So,
is it
I mean, I was 22 at the time, so I
yeah.
was probably still pretty stupid. Zero responsibilities whatsoever. I made all the mistakes you could make. You know, when clients would ask, "Hey, who do we make the check out to?" I said, "Just to make it out to my name." Then you go to their bank and cash it. I've done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you say I do things differently, you sometimes have to turn around and pinch yourself. But yeah, I owed back taxes in my life. I had I don't know, 2 or 3 Sherwin-Williams accounts shut down because I didn't pay the bill because it was more important to go out to the bar on Friday nights with my friend. I made all those mistakes.
If you could, and I just, I want to hear the rest of your story, but just kind of a thought. I know in this, in the service businesses, I mean, not just pressure washing, not just anything. A lot of times, a guy's business, it starts off as a side gig, and they're forced to make that decision at some point. Do I lean into this 100% and leave some sort of security that I had, or does it just stay a side gig? Do you have like a word of advice for guys that are kind of in that position? Like kind of just getting started, like what would you say to somebody who's making that consideration?
I would take a look at your surroundings, right? So, hindsight being 2020, I didn't look at my surroundings intentionally. I was still unemployable at the time. It was not a great employee because I just needed to be on my own. But if you're in a situation where there's upward mobility, where there's opportunity, where there's structure and systems in place, if you're in a position where, or with a company where, they're transparent, sometimes you want to think about twice leaving and going on your own because you got something good. This has not been easy, and I'm not one of these new trends where you see these kids at three years into the game grossing 7 figures. That was not my story.
Yeah.
So it is difficult. I would do a little bit of soul searching in yourself and see if you have the grit to put in the time. I'd also contemplate where you could see your business in 10 years, you know? So all of those things play a role, but, you know, if you have some upward mobility in the place you're at, that's a significant place to say, hey, do I want to go out on my own? Am I going to have the same upward mobility? Let me talk to my boss, and I would say be open with it. Hey, I'm thinking I'm going to start my own thing. Like, what does the future look like for me here? You know, everybody knows the stats of how long businesses last, right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if anybody thinks about it when they're getting started. You know,
No.
sometimes we start things and we just think about the upside. You know, right?
Yeah, I think my
love
first
that,
year in
though.
business, I grossed like 20 grand. It might have been less. It might have been like 18 or something like that. It was bad.
Yeah.
But I was,
Yeah,
again, I was
it's hard.
22. Yeah.
It's hard, and I really love what you said. Like, you know, do you have the grit? And it does take some grit to start something yourself and grow it and deal with setbacks. So, super advice. And the second piece, like you said, thinking about where do you want to be in 10 years. Like, it takes some real, a certain type of mentality to really give that kind of foresight into things. And
Yeah.
sometimes we're just operating by the seat of our pants. I think that kind of goes to that entrepreneurial gene. You know, we feel good about making gut decisions, so we make them. It's part of the kind of person that goes out on their own. But you do got to think about the future. I thought that's fantastic advice. So you get your business going. You have a painting incorporated into your business. Like, what happens next? How do things go? You said you didn't take off like a rocket. Was it hard? Did you still, you know, how'd that go?
So, you know, like you just said, I operated by the seat of my pants for about 10 years, you know,
Okay.
until my wife joined the company. That's when it really took off. But,
Okay.
you know, and I'm very open about things that have happened to me in my life. You know, got married pretty young, had a kid, got divorced, and that kind of messed with my business a little bit. Sort of almost lost it. I think I wanted to change fields. I bought a retail skateboard and trophy shop in my town,
Okay.
which, if you've ever been around retail, there's not a ton of money in it. So I was doing retail, I was snow plowing, I was painting, I was power washing, I was still doing all the stuff, just not very well at any of it. And then I got rid of the retail shop, sold it to some friends of mine, and hopped back into painting full time. And that was about 11 years ago. No, that was about maybe 13 years ago. My wife jumped in about 11 years ago, 11 and a half.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I've gone through it all. I struggled with you know, being a single father and the guilt of running a business and having 50% custody with my daughter and needing to spend time, you know, with her and time at work with a young, thriving business. That part wasn't easy. But yeah, I mean, it took me about, 10, 11 years and a good wife.
Yeah.
Not that my last,
Yeah.
you know, we may want to edit that one. That's where we want to, it took a good second. You know, my wife is a great partner in business with me.
So when your wife came into the business, what changed? Was it a role that she took on? Was it a perspective that she brought? Did she just get you in line? I mean, what happened?
It was super simple to start with. Answer the phones and take messages. That was
Okay.
it. I did not have to get down the ladder, write it on a sticky pad, get home at the end of the day, feel like I need to return phone calls. It was just super simple. I could work because my phone wasn't ringing on my hip, and she answered the phones and returned phone calls. And then, for some reason, business owners do not like to bill people, you know? So, billing, you know, she sent out invoices at a timely manner, not when I needed the money, you know?
Right.
You know, I know too many business owners that never send out invoices because it's like, it takes time. We'd rather just produce the work. We'll get paid someday for it. So then it moved to invoicing. You know, and then it moved to setting up estimates, and then now put a big post because it was International Women's Day yesterday, or International Women's Business Day. Now she does, you know, HR. She does, you know, QuickBooks. She runs the P&Ls and budget, helps put the budget. I mean, she does an unbelievable amount now.
But it started like where you needed it. Like you said, it was simple, but those are big things, man. Those are big things.
Yeah.
Answering the phone is. I know you're around helping businesses, so you see it. Guys starting out, they're too busy to answer the phone, they lose the work, they don't send the bill, they don't get paid. Those are big things. They're simple, but they make a big difference. So your business started growing, and you feel like so that was the point it just really started to take off and never looked back, or was there something else in that?
Well, I brought on a right hand man, Scott, who's still here with me to this day. He's our operations manager now. And he was able to relieve some of the pressure so I could start doing estimates during the day. So that's the second part, right? So before I was doing estimates at night and the weekends because I was producing. Scott came along, and I was able to start stepping away because he became good enough at our trade that I could start doing estimates during the day. And then he also, when there wasn't estimates, it enabled me time to be able to interview some people. So that was part 2 for me in my journey.
Yeah. And
so,
yeah, I think that's probably a point worth just pausing and taking in that the weight you put on hiring somebody that was in operations. It wasn't just getting more technician help. You got somebody that could come do those things that actually drive the business forward, which is like you said, being able to do putting together estimates during the day. That's revolutionary for your business, I assume.
Yeah, anybody who's a bootstrapper, meaning, you started from the ground up, that's revolutionary, definitely for sure. Again, this is 20 years ago, 15 years ago, this stuff was not as prevalent as it is now for for people to have this information, right? To start off, there was nobody around me that was running a business where they could, I could learn some stuff from them. So
yeah. So did you ever have that in your business where there was a mentor or there was a guide, or you pretty much figured it all out on your own?
So I figured a lot of it out on my own, through trial and error, a lot of good gut feeling. I played some college baseball, some semi-pro baseball as a catcher, so. In baseball has transferred a lot over into personal and family life and also business. Okay. And I feel like baseball is one of those sports where it's just a gut feel, right? The managers make decisions, and now it's more analytical, but a lot of it back then was all gut feel. So, I think it worked well for me in my business. But I did move towards coaching through my tenure. Somebody said, hey, you really need to find a mentor in this and somebody who you can lean on. Well, when I was young, and it may have been because I was naive, but I never thought finding a mentor, someone who would help you, meant you actually had to pay for it, right? So still, I don't really have any quote unquote mentors that I don't pay for, which is what I try and return in my life. Is if anybody needs any help or information or somebody to bounce something off of, I'll charge for my. And it's I pay. There's value, tremendous value in coaches. I would not be here where I'm at today if I only had a mentor. I will put parameters around it, right? But for me, it was fairly inexpensive, the coaching I'd paid for. Eventually I got some professional advice, you could call it that, right?
Yeah. What's the biggest thing you learned from being in a coaching type experience? Was there just one big takeaway, or was it a lot of little things? Or
I would say a tremendous amount of little things, right? So obviously technology plays a huge part in it. Getting away from pen and paper and just remembering things. Actually use a Google Calendar or get a web address with your company name at the end of it instead of at gmail.com or at yahoo.com or whatever. Those are very little things that make you become more professional, but also having some sort of direction for a repeatable process,
Okay.
Another thing, because of my background's not in finances, even though I make a joke, I went to college to play baseball. My major was sports medicine. So it wasn't finances. So like putting together a budget, like I had no idea, so learning how to do a budget and a big part of coaching too was figuring out some benchmarking. So where you should be within your industry, knowing where your numbers should fall within a range that is okay. That's another aha moment, right? To just say, hey, I can look at the high level stuff and dig into it if it falls out of these parameters.
Right.
Another part that came with coaching, because most of coaching is done in a mastermind group setting, so learning from peers, right? So you put in groups with peers and different ideas come around. It was just a bunch of little things, and I'll tell you what, there were times, Brad, where I needed to step away from coaching to implement. So over the years, I've had to step away and say, you know what, I got too much information. It's information overload. I can't eat the elephant in one bite.
Right.
And this is where my wife came into play, because my personality type is, I'm not a great integrator. I'm a big, I'll grab big picture stuff and we can do this and we can do that, and then I'll get it halfway there, maybe 80% of the way, but I can't finish stuff. Man, I am no good at finishing stuff. And realizing that, and my wife's very good at finishing stuff, so I learned that through coaching, right? Your disc analysis and traction stuff and exposure. How about this? Coaching has been the number one thing for coaching is exposure, education, and probably probably those two things. Just being exposed to things a lot, consistent exposure.
Absolutely. That's very interesting. I was just curious what your experience has been like. So today, where has your business gotten to after all these years? Tell me a little bit about how far you've come.
Yeah. So today we have 6 people in the office, non-income producing, which is sometimes scary if you think about it, right?
Yeah.
You gotta go to work now, right? I'm not just I have to go to work. So we have salespeople, we have operations managers, project managers, 2 admin. So internally, structurally wise, we have some leadership put in place. There are certain pain points in a business, in all businesses, and I'm sure the levels are different, right? So $300,000, $500,000 to $700,000, your first $1 million, they're all pain points where you need to start adding infrastructure or something that's going to cost money, and they're scary. We finally pushed past our first 7-figure, not finally, a couple of years ago, pushed past our first 7-figure, so that was a huge stress reliever. And then the last thing we most recently did is through our industry, we most recently partnered up with another company.
Okay.
It's not totally random. It's not, it's not totally random. It's somebody I knew. It's somebody I trust. And he was doing something similar to us. He's a former college pro guy, and if you've been around the industries long enough, these college pros guys, like they teach them systems and processes. It's unbelievable. And he started developing some partnerships with some friends out there where he would bring on a friend and say, hey, you're good at this, I'm good at this, let's do that. And then he brought another guy on. Then he acquired a company where he's at in Minnesota. Then he acquired another company, and now he has a C-suite of people. They got multiple companies. He's not even involved with his painting company anymore. They have software, processes, systems. They're developing an LMS. And for me, so this is a partnership in our eyes as opposed to a franchise model. I have people who I can lean on to stabilize my business and help it become an asset. And by stabilize, I don't mean my business requires me to keep going.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to do is develop, even though we're successful, we're trying to develop a stabilized asset that can produce an income for partners who were mutually vested, right? So the success of the company is the interest of all the partners.
Okay.
We get paid to do a job, and at the end of the year, we collect distributions. But what I said to you earlier was I'm not good at finishing stuff, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I had sales staff, I had operations and project managers, but I didn't have a compensation structure for my sales guy. And I lost some good salespeople along the way because of that. I didn't have a bonus structure for PMs or operations managers because they would produce jobs under a GP, right? So if we wanted to finish at 45% and they finished at 50, well, they should collect some money for that, right? This partnership is enabling my people to have the best opportunity that can be provided for them, right? So what I realized was that I brought it to a level where I could bring it. And now I need help getting it to that next level. And to bring it full circle, what I told you in the beginning was you got to look around, right, and see if there's mobility upward. And my growth has not been because I wanted to just live in a massive mansion on the hill. I looked up a ladder one day and said, I don't want to climb this ladder forever.
Yeah.
And I hired Scott. And I saw him climb a ladder, and I said, I don't want him to climb a ladder for the rest of his life. And we've continued to grow, right? Because I don't want my people to have no upward mobility. And this opportunity that we're doing right now is the best opportunity for anyone that were to join Militello and stick with us.
Yeah.
There's more to it than that, but that's the gist of it, man. I mean, I'm super pumped for our people.
That's exciting. So, coming into the partnership that you guys are doing, I guess and I'm just kind of gleaning from what you said, it's a mix of not just a financial backing, but there's actually some development backing, like they're kind of helping pave the way for like those next steps for you, like in what to do next and how to structure it and how to put it together as well.
Sort of. So they're 40% stock, equity holders in our company. We did not need the money. There was no need for the money. I mean, yes, somebody has to buy into our company and whatever, but we didn't. There was no need for it. We were operating pretty healthily. No debt, any of that kind of stuff. We were operating healthy. My story is a little different than another. They have one other partner that we're trying to professionalize this, right? So there's another partner or someone they've purchased. That's a different story, right? They didn't have a tech stack, right? So what they're onboarding to the partnership looks entirely different than mine. Mine's been a little painful, right? We had estimating software. We had project management software. We had various things, right? But they were able to do it to scale. So right now we're in the process of switching everything over to theirs because they have custom software, reporting things, NPS scores, being able to track how successful a team is and being able to go right back at them and say, hey, look, this is where we need to improve it. Let's go back to the LMS and retrain. Yeah. So for me, purely, it was the stabilization of my company.
Right.
It wasn't about necessarily the money. For me, it was about implementing something that they could scale. They're looking at doing 24 this year in total sales between all the companies, which is pretty good.
Solid.
Yeah, it's interesting stuff. It's still scary, but any leap of faith along the way, and I'm sure you've had plenty, Brad, is scary, Yeah. But there are certain things built into this agreement that we can, do to back out or, safely, not to hurt anyone. These guys are friends. Look, in this type of partnership, it wasn't only for them. It wasn't only about opportunity or money. It was about, are they a good partner? Are they good people? Or do they fit who we are?
Right.
I hope people aren't going to sleep during this. I hope this is interesting for them, man.
No. I'm interested. So if nothing else, I'm enjoying it. You talk about making that leap of faith, and I was just thinking about, you said I probably have to, and I certainly have. It just made me think about like, maybe you're not wired this way, and maybe I don't know if it's like a independent thing or whatever thing it is. I get really energized by having the opportunity to take a big leap of faith in something new, into a new direction. Like, I get really that's what I get hyped up on. Like stepping out into the unknown for me is like, I don't know, it's thrilling. Don't get me wrong, I have a lot of sleepless nights, but it's thrilling nonetheless. Do you kind of feel that way? Do you like
100%, 100%.
So like, I think that has to be wired into you a little bit to have the mindset for it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe.
No, 100%. So my dad, he's a CPA, and he said to me once, it takes like people like you to take a risk, because I never would, right? So it is a personality type. My wife's not a big risk taker.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So the last, I don't know, year has been very good to me mentally, right? I've been pretty healthy mentally in the last year. Before that, lots of stress. Like I said, you're getting past certain growth stages that are pretty stressful. But I was becoming like, what am I supposed to be doing now? What's next? Right? And I was getting bored. I got tired of my requirements here at work. So this is another opportunity to, again, become exposed to some stuff. And I'm not a pro. I am only repeating things that I've become exposed to. I could not like...
That's okay.
Right? Sell you on anything like this or that. But now I have an opportunity to become exposed to some stuff that I've never been exposed to, and it interests me. And it is leveling. However, the stress is back right now, right? You make that jump, it's going to be fun, and you get amped up. But, man, the stress is back a little bit,
Yeah.
And I know it's short term. So now I've grown to the point where I know that we've got a good base. We've got a good people. We have a good opportunity now within our company, and we have good opportunity with our partners and what my partners and myself are trying to do. There's good opportunity for people around me. So I know now that it's only going to be a short-lived pain. And also the pain I'm going through may be for best for people behind me, right after me. There's an intention to this pain.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I heard it said like this. I'm going to repeat something I heard yesterday. The founder of Bergflow, this business, and he said, you step into these new things. And he said, you really have two choices. He said, one, you can say, I'm in a place I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm not good at it. And that immediately elevates your stress and anxiety in the world around you. He said, or you can say, you know what, I'm going to embrace this chaos. And he called it chaos soup. I've never heard that said before. But I'm going to embrace the chaos. And this is my opportunity to become the next version of myself. And I thought that was like really profound. And it's true, right? So, we're excited. We get excited about change. But you get into it and you realize, I'm doing things I'm not good at yet. And you either can embrace it and say it's temporary, and I'm going to enjoy the evolution. I want to get better. I want to grow, and I mean that like personally, like as a person, and it can be a fun process. And you die in your comfort zone. So if you're not getting out of it, and that's just my opinion. I didn't mean to. I'm not trying to get into like giving advice on this. I just want to hear what you have to say. So. You shared something with me when we were at the show that you guys don't do. You guys kind of have a little bit different model of how you guys set up your technicians. They're not all in-house employees. That you guys do some subbing or whatever. You have a little bit different structure. Can you tell me a little bit about that and why you do it and how that's benefited you?
So we were only in-house employees. I was very anti-subcontractor. I always thought of it's the franchise model, and this and that. COVID came along, and the workforce went down. However, we're still subcontractors working, guys who wanted to work. So it kind of forced a hand. We had the work. I started researching a sub model. I hired a subcontractor, and I immediately hired a project manager that only managed the subcontractors. So he's actually never painted for, well, he has in a previous lifetime. He's a friend of mine, and he painted for us when we were younger, but he doesn't paint. His job is not to paint. His job is called a client concierge of sorts, right? So if I go get a job, and this is what I needed to do to make me feel comfortable. However, it's also what's best for the client, it's what's best for Militello, and it's what's best for subcontractors. We interview our subs, we show them the processes that we in-house, how we do our work, we show them our standards, we check out their work, and we see if if they'd be a good fit for us and if we'd be a good fit for them. We tell them we pay immediately, there's no holding on to money. We tell them that one of our employees will show up to the job site with you. They'll talk with the client, walk with the client, they'll walk you around the job. We will show up with the materials. We will show up with the sundries. You just need to show up and paint, right?
Yeah.
Because and then we have somebody show up every single day. And if there's any issues, or if there's any quality issues with the painters, if there's any concerns of the client during the project, we address them immediately, which is not how most subcontractors operate. This has made me feel comfortable with this model, and I'm okay with it. But again, this is not how most people operate that operate a subcontractor model.
No.
Our subs love it, right? Because there are people out there, Brad, that don't want to do what I did. They just want to show up to work and paint, right? So when you asked what made me want to leave, I said there had to be upward mobility. Well, my previous company, there was no upward mobility, and he's still there. I'm still friends with him, and he's still operating, hiring guys, firing guys, and he's still out there painting. And that's what he enjoys, and that's okay. I've become, and my company's become pretty good at getting work, right? We just don't have the people to fill it all the time. And there's a lot of people out there who are very good at work. They're just not great at getting it. So if we can go get the work, if we can go manage the job, if we can show up with the supplies, and we have somebody who's just as much as a craftsman as our in-house guys, it's the best of both worlds, right? Brad, you show up, you do the job, you get to go home. You don't have to worry about anything, man.
Right.
You could do that for multiple contractors if you wanted to. So for us, it works well. It's also a great way to scale quickly.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I love some of the processes you put around it for quality control and for how you guys have somebody there who's kind of still being the face of your painting company. That's crucial. So would you say that the key to the sub model being successful for you, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, just recapping what you said, is the systems and processes you built around it so that you have more control over it? You're not just sending guys to do stuff.
Yeah, it was a comfort level. For me, it was the key. There are plenty of other businesses who do upwards of 8 figures that do not operate this way, so it works for them. For me and my clients and our target markets, and the kind of work we do and the kind of work we're going to continue to do, it was key for us to have, and even for me. So with the partnership, this aspect of it is getting better, right? Every aspect of what we did. What we did was very rudimentary, but it worked.
Yeah.
So, it's only getting better.
Awesome. Well, I think that could be helpful for a lot of guys that are looking to grow, to explore, a different way to do it. And that's what I meant in the beginning, you do things a different way. I mean, you probably do a lot of things a different way, but that's just what I remembered from talking. So I have 2 more questions for you. I know we spent a little bit of time on here.
Nah, I got all the time in the world, man.
First question is, what was as you remember it, kind of looking back on it, what do you think the biggest challenge was you faced from where you started to where you are today?
I would say there's 2. One is learning to step away and let somebody do their job.
Okay.
and the other is recognizing what you're not good at and finding somebody to do it.
That's good.
So the first one, I'm not a micromanager anymore. I'm fine with just saying, hey, this is yours, go do it, right?
Yeah.
Or what I've kind of done sometimes is help coach my own players, right, my own guys and ladies, to solve a problem with them, but they're doing it on their own. And that's some things I do here that I enjoy. So micromanaging of sorts, I wasn't I don't know, maybe I was. Learning to step away from what you've hired somebody to do. And then another thing, the second part was, if you're not good at it, find somebody who's good at it. I have pretty much achieved everything I've wanted to in business. Sometimes it's taken longer, but I've learned that it doesn't have to be because you need to read 10 business books like people say. I don't read a ton of books. It doesn't have to be because you're great at everything you try. Like, I literally willed my way through some stuff, which I don't have a ton of, willpower left. I need to recharge those for a few years. That renewable resource is almost dry, but I've also learned to find someone who's good at what needs to be done in my business. And then step away and let them do it. Or tell them the dream you have for the position and let them do their job, So I've kind of created workarounds of sorts. That's the nice thing about work is that it doesn't always have to be the way everybody thinks it is.
Yeah. I like that you shared that. I believe in that because I suffer from this. So I believe other people suffer from it. Is my natural inclination is I can do anything. And I think it's pretty profound that you share that one of the biggest challenges was getting to that point where you realize, wait a second, I'm really good at this, but this stuff over here, there are people that are way better than me, and it's way better for them to do it.
Yeah.
And just because you can doesn't mean that you should, right? So
yeah, 100%.
I appreciate you sharing that. I think that's a real challenge for people that start businesses that have, and I use the word entrepreneur a lot because I think that's a mindset. It's something that you kind of have in you, and it's like you wouldn't have started your business if you didn't believe that you could do things and accomplish things, and you had some confidence in your ability to go out and figure it out. But then at some point, it comes back to bite you when you're trying to grow.
Yeah, I mean, every decision we make today will dictate it tomorrow, right? So it's almost like there's a T-shirt that should almost be entrepreneurism, a different kind of crazy or something like that, or
yes,
because you do have to be a little bit not right to do this stuff.
Well, I think probably we'll just leave it there. Probably so. So, last question for you, Christian. And I appreciate all the stuff that you've shared. I've really enjoyed it. I assume other people will.
I hope so, man. I hope so.
There's a lot of wisdom in it because you've lived it. You spent the last 20 years figuring it out. What's most exciting for you over the next couple 3 years? Like, what are you most excited about?
I am most excited. So here's I want my company to employ at least 6 people that make over 6 figures.
Okay.
Right? That I'm excited about that, right? So there's a real opportunity with my company for some people within it to make some, and I've never said this publicly, what I'm saying right now. I really want the people here. No, that's fine. Again, I'm an open book. For me to see people around me have success and comfort in life is super special, and through our partnership and the things we're doing, that is real, so that's one. And then another thing I'm most excited about is seeing where we can take this thing with somebody besides my wife and I. You know, we have some pain right now. And that's to be expected, and that's okay. Should last, I'm hoping, another 3-4 months.
Yeah.
But I'm really looking forward to, you know, maybe acquiring some businesses here outside of Philadelphia that want to go the same path I went, you know. Or maybe they want to be completely out of the company, own 10% of it, and just collect distributions at the end of the year. We can do that.
Yeah.
You know, that may not happen in 3 years, but there's a possibility of something like that happening.
Right.
I'm excited for, how about this? This may sound crazy. I'm excited for the unknown.
Okay. Okay.
Does that make any sense at all?
I once heard it said, and apparently I'm just a walking quote today, but I once heard it said that our tolerance for uncertainty will be in direct proportion to our ability to succeed. So I think I'm with you, man. I love to see what comes around the bend. So
yeah,
I'm wired similarly. So I vibe with that, you know. But yeah,
it is painful.
Really
that is the painful part, though, right? We do it to ourselves.
Yeah. I had to, and you know, I'm here to interview you, so I don't mean to like take over with.
No, I want to hear it. Let me hear it.
I had a conversation a month or two ago with in a group, and a really great conversation. And if you ever get a chance to do this, like I highly recommend it. We're at a table of people, and it was suggested that we have one table, one conversation. And so a question was asked, and everyone stayed focused as that question was answered by each person. And then we kind of probed into it. And the question was, if you could stop doing one thing in your life that would make the biggest impact on you, what would it be? And a couple other people answered, and I was thinking, and it became so clear to me. And I guess I maybe knew it in my gut, but I had never articulated it before. And it was that if I stopped saying yes to so many things, you know, I mean, I've heard the wisdom. You got to say no to some things. And it's in my nature. I think I can do anything. And I want to help people. And I want to say yes when things come along. I want to be like, yes, I can do that too. Yes, I can do that too. But, you know.
Sounds like you must have been a
said,
contractor or a waiter or a bartender or something in your life.
Yeah, yes, a contractor for sure. And
yeah,
I used to build houses.
Yeah, so there you go. And when you're in the service industry, you just want to serve.
You do, and I want to take on things, but I realized, and I don't know if I'm sharing this for anything more than just my own therapy and our conversation.
That's okay.
But what I realized was, it became so apparent how much more effective I'm going to be at the things that really matter if I shed a little bit of the dead weight. You know, because I want to step out. I'm with you. I want to step way out into the unknown for like the big things. Go after the big things. But I've got to shed these other things. As much as I want to help all these people, I can't take it all on. Brad can't do all of it. So you got to push some of that other stuff aside. So for whatever that's worth, you know, but I'm with you, man. I'm excited about
learning to say no is a big thing.
I appreciate your time today. I appreciate the wisdom you've shared. It's been great getting to know a little bit of your story. I love this stuff, man. I love hearing people's stories about like the things they went through, and I'm just so happy for your success, Christian. It's awesome. You guys have some exciting things ahead of you, and that is really
cool. Man. I appreciate the opportunity to tell a story, right? Because you never know who it helps, or somebody says I went through that, or I'm going through that, and you know, nowadays everybody's accessible. So my name's down there in the corner, spelled out correctly this time, right? I spelled everything, and somebody could reach out if they wanted. They could reach out to you if they need to, right? You know, I mean, that's the cool thing about doing this stuff is my job has afforded me the right to give you an hour and a half of time, man, to help. I don't care if it helps 10 people, could help 100 people, you know, just by listening to it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks again, Christian, and we'll have to do this again in the future sometime and talk about some other topics. I'm sure we only scratched the surface of the things that you could share.
I'm down, man. I'm down.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us again today, and we will see you guys back on the next episode.